This is Cacio Alla Giudia, or Jewish-style artichokes, that date back 500 years ago or the 16th century in Rome, where a particularly intolerant pope confined Roman Jews to a small ghetto in the city where they were restricted from interacting with the rest of the Roman Christian population. And in those ghettos, Roman Jews took one of Rome's core ingredients, the artichoke, and created a fried artichoke recipe so good that the rest of the Roman Christian population loved so much. Not only did it bring them to the ghettos, in spite of all the restrictions to enjoy artichokes, Cacio E Alla Giudia is now embraced as and is very much considered a part of Roman cuisine and one of Jewish cuisine's greatest contributions. And there are a couple secrets to doing this properly, and in this video I will share all of them. First thing I want to do is fill up a pot of oil. Now this recipe is traditionally fried in olive oil. Now I have no problem frying in olive oil. It has a high enough smoke point to deep fry in. My only problem is it's expensive. So I'm just going to cut about 50-50 with a frying oil, like a canola oil, and then the other 50 I'm gonna do with olive oil, and you're still gonna get that rich olive oil flavor, which is part of the flavor of this dish. One of the popular fats in Rome at the time was pork fat, but under Jewish religion, it's prohibited to consume pork as it's a forbidden food, so olive oil was the most obvious, most practical fat to use in this dish at the time. Then get it on the stove and get it preheated to 280 degrees. Now here I've got a globe artichoke and a baby artichoke. You can use either of these. The only difference is the choke, the little hairy part above the heart of the artichoke in a baby artichoke is still tender, so you don't need to remove it. But the choke in one of these guys, you cannot eat, so you're going to have to remove it. Other than that, the way we clean them, generally going to be the same. And that is one of the secrets to this recipe. Let me show you. First you want to do is just take any leaves around the outside, and we just want to remove them. You also want to have a lemon on hand. I like to rub it on my knife. And we're just going to have cheeks here that we rub any of the exposed parts that we cut to prevent any oxidation. So just going to go through and peel that outer layer of all of them. So all the artichokes are all at the same stage, so we can just move fast. So here's the thing with artichokes is the stem is edible, but it's tough. There is a core that is edible that you need to remove all this tough fibrous stuff from. The leaves, the top half is also inedible, but the bottom half is, and so is the heart that's sort of stuck in the middle. And these outer leaves, they're just no good. You could just see me taking them all off and be like, you're wasting all of these leaves. What are you doing? But when you try and cook this recipe and you have these leaves on the outside, they're just gonna be like leather. You're not gonna be able to chew them, so just taking them apart now is gonna do wonders in how the thing eats when it's cooked. And all you have to do is just reveal this lighter green area. You can almost see there's an indentation, a little ridge. That shows you like where the soft edible parts are from the tough inedible parts. So I remove all the outer leaves until I get to a nice yellow bottom. See, these leaves, they're still a little too green for me. When in doubt, I just pull them off because I want that final bite to be perfect with no tough bits. I've tried to keep some of them in the past and it's just no good. So now you see this stage right here where we've got all the tough leaves removed, but we still have this fibrous part here. We want to prep the rest of them to this stage before we move on, just so we limit the amount of oxidation and to give our oil some time to get hot. Right now we're at 280, so that's actually the perfect temperature we're going for. So we just want to keep this at that 280 until we prepare the rest of the artichokes. And if you've never prepared an artichoke before, you've got to notice there are these spikes at the end of the leaves. You really have to be careful of them or they will puncture you and they kind of hurt. So just go ahead, get the rest of the artichokes to that same stage, and then we can move on to the next phase. Okay, so now that we have all of our artichokes at the same stage, we can move into the next stage, which is going to be trimming the edge, cleaning up all this fibrous stuff, and then cleaning up all this tough green that is also very much inedible. And we want to start to make our artichoke take shape. And so you're going to hold your paring knife in your hand like that. We want to sort of just use the top part of the knife. That's going to allow us control. That's going to allow you to curve around the artichoke, which doing it in the thicker part of the blade down here is going to be hard to do. So you choke up on the knife and we just reveal a fresh cap, and you can see that's the edible part. We got to remove this dark green part. And so I'm gonna prevent some oxidation there, and then I'm just gonna peel away. And you're using the top of the knife, so once you get over here, you can start to curve it up. And then just go around, take your time, and just clean up the artichoke. The main goal here is if you see any dark green, you gotta get it removed. Using the very edge of your knife, you could just kind of shave off anything you see, and any freshly exposed part of the artichoke, you just rub with some lemon. And any green bits remaining from the leaves you snipped off in the beginning, you wanna make sure you go around and you remove them as well. Then for the baby artichokes, I shave the stem the opposite way and I just sort of sharpen it like I would a pencil. So now everything is cleaned, the stems are cleaned, now we just need to clean the tops. Okay, now here's the key, is since there's like a gradient and layers to this thing, and that some part that's edible and then another part that's not, the trick is to not cut into it, but to sort of shave it around like a pencil. They call it turning an artichoke, but we want sort of like an angled, tapered design to this. So I'm gonna hold my knife almost at like a, I don't know, roughly 45 degree-ish angle, and just start to turn the artichoke, removing any of the dark green again. And just be careful again for the spikes. The main goal here is removing as much of the inedible part of the artichoke and keeping as much of the edible part of the artichoke. And also you're creating this kind of cone-like shape that then is gonna resemble a little bit of a flower or a rose. So when it fries, it's gonna blossom open and have this really pretty aesthetic to it. You can sort of see all the layers stacking on top of each other. We wanna rub with some lemon. And in Italy, there's a variety of artichoke that they use for this called cimorori, which is a more tender artichoke, and the chokes are less developed and edible. The artichokes I'm using, you gotta remove those chokes. So I just cut out the middle part of the artichoke and with a spoon, scrape out all of those chokes. And there's a lot in there, so you kind of really have to take your time and scrape it all out. And once you've got all the chokes out and you've got a nice little crevice inside, just give it a quick little rinse and then a little bit of lemon juice inside, and that artichoke is ready to be cooked. And that little hole inside is going to allow the artichoke to fry a little bit better than you would if you kept that in. Now if you see, you've got this sort of gradient that goes up, and once it hits the oil, they're going to start to fray open. Removing the chokes also going to allow oil to get in and crisp up the interior leaves. Very important. So we're just gonna go through and clean up the rest of the artichokes. Now once you do a few of these, you get your technique down, you can actually get really fast at this pretty quickly. And if you're doing a lot, you could get a bowl of lemon water to prevent browning and soak them in that, but we're dropping this into frying oil, so I kind of really love preventing adding additional moisture if possible. I trim them up, I make sure that they're all nice and clean, and I'm imagining that perfect end bite, don't want any tough bits there. And then I just make sure I rub them all with lemon juice, and that will go a long way from preventing them from browning, just like the lemon water would. So now that we've got our artichokes prepared, we can start the process of frying them. But you may have noticed that I'm using a new knife today, thanks to our sponsor today, Made In, and we need to take a second to talk about that. Made In designs professional quality products for the home cook, and they partner with multi-generational factories and artisans to offer you a real comprehensive collection of pots, pans, knives, and everything else you might need to cook and serve food in a home kitchen. Made In's award-winning knife collection is crafted in Thiers, France, and they're forged by a 5th-generation bladesmith who've been perfecting their craft for centuries. Each knife is full tang and fully forged, meaning each is made from one solid piece of stainless steel and is nitrogen treated to harden the blade. As far as I'm concerned, at least every home chef should have a chef's knife, which is going to be your ultimate workhorse. You're also going to need a really good, reliable bread knife. And then of course, every home needs a small paring knife, perfect for precise cuts and slicing and dicing smaller food. And then you can have fun beyond that. Maybe grab yourself one of these Nakiri knives. It's got these straight and symmetrical edges, which are perfect for chopping and dicing. They deliver directly to your door and offer free shipping and free returns. Now you know I'm not going to talk about Made In unless I'm saving you money. So if you head on down to the link in the description and you shop, you get some knives, you get some pans, you get some plates. We're taking 15% off the order, no questions asked. So if you need to go gear up, head on down to the link in the description and let's jump back into the recipe. Now we're ready for our first fry. Now, like I said, we want the frying oil to be at 280 degrees approximately, and I've overshot it to around 310. And that's on purpose because I know once I add all of these artichokes, it's gonna drop the temperature of the oil down significantly. So I'm compensating for it at the start, and it should level out to around 260, 270. And this is about as much as I would add to this fryer at any one time. If you were only doing large artichokes, you could probably do 3 to 4 at once. And so now we're just gonna let them fry. I noticed that my temp just dropped a little bit too much, so I jacked the heat up to bring that temperature a little bit higher into my cooking zone, which it shortly arrived at. And now I'm just gonna cook them for around 10 to 15 minutes. I wanna rotate them. If there's any part that's not exposed to the oil, you just wanna make sure that you're constantly moving them around and getting them evenly browned. And since we removed the choke from the big artichokes, that oil can now insert into the center of that cavity and start to fry those inner leaves. And then the goal of this first fry is just to cook the artichokes through and maybe get a little bit of light golden brown happening. Now, since I know the smaller artichokes are gonna cook faster, after about 10 minutes or so, I'm gonna start to test their doneness by taking a cake tester and inserting it into the heart of the artichoke. And if there's no resistance and it comes in and out smoothly, then I'm gonna start to remove those. Hit them with a little bit of salt. I'm gonna give the larger artichokes a few more minutes and then remove them all from the oil and drain them upside down on a wire rack so that oil doesn't get stuck in all of those layers and create a greasy artichoke. Then we wanna let those cool for about 20 minutes, just until they're ready to handle. And then we wanna take them and we wanna take those leaves and just kind of open it up. Expose all those layers of leaves so that when we add them into the second fry, we're gonna be able to get some of those leaves crispy like a potato chip, and it's gonna bloom like a beautiful crispy flower. But don't manhandle it. You should handle it with care. And once we've got them all opened up, we want to get that temperature of the oil back up to around 350 degrees. This fry is going to seal in a nice crispy texture to as much of the artichoke as we can get. Then I'm going to add the large artichokes first into the pot of oil with the leaves facing down, and I'm just going to press it into the bottom of the pan, trying to flatten them out. It's going to help it to give that traditional look to a Carciofi alla Giudia. Once they've made some contact with the bottom of the pan, then you can start to flip them, start to make sure that you're evenly frying the large artichokes. And then once they're nicely golden brown and crispy all over, we're gonna take them out of the oil again and then drain them upside down like we did before. And then we can go through, we can take the baby artichokes and we can fry those as well. And you don't have to smash the baby artichokes, you can just cook them until they're brown and crispy all over. I mean, how good does that look? And it's the same thing. Once they get nice and crispy all over, take them out, drain them upside down, one more final hit of salt, and they're ready to be served. Now, while those cool, I'm gonna make a little bit of a dipping sauce for them. Traditionally, they'll just be served with a lemon, and that's totally fine. We've seasoned them so they should have flavor. They're perfectly crisp, beautiful. But I just like to add a little bit Cacio E Pepe mayo, a little bit of lemon juice. It's this really bright, creamy dipping sauce that goes really well. You can use Hellmann's, you can use Kewpie, whatever you want. It's really a rough recipe. I just take about a quarter to a half cup of the mayo, about a quarter of a lemon juiced right into it with a little bit of salt, and it's mixed up and it's nice and smooth and balanced. Then we can just cut up some lemon wedges. We're gonna spoon that lemon mayo into a nice little ramekin, and then we can plate the artichokes. We're going in with the big artichokes, and then we're gonna surround it with the little crispy artichokes. And what you've got is something that might look simple, but will blow your mind. Now, a good test is you start picking around the outer leaves of the big artichokes, and if you can chew through them, it's a good indication you trimmed it properly. These guys, the choke is edible. You just pop them in, and you've got like a crunchy exterior and a soft, creamy interior. Man, I'm not lying when I say one of the best things you'll ever eat. Now, with these guys, you could just pick it off like a chip, and the heart starts to reveal. So it's like two ways of eating it, or you could just dunk it all the way in, and you get access to the heart. Give that a dip. Such a beautiful dish. This is one of those core Italian dishes that you must know. And if you execute it properly, it will be one of your favorite things. The recipe's gonna be down in the description. That's all that I have today. I'll see you next time. Until then, take care of yourself and go feed yourself. I think it's time you might want to brush up on some Cacio E Pepe. I just made a new video teaching of various methods on how to create the creamiest Cacio E Pepe that you've ever had. I guarantee it. Give it a shot, and thanks for watching.